So 2023 will definitely go down in history. It's been a very mixed bag of a year for movies. So many blockbusters came out and flopped, and a load of movies came out and did way better than they were ever anticipated to do. And now we come to this, the latest release from Zack Snyder and Netflix, being Rebel Moon. I genuinely do not know where to start with this movie. So yeah, I will just say now there will be some spoilers in this video for Rebel Moon. But honestly, this movie is kind of so all over the place. Who knows if any of this is actually going to stick? So we'll have to wait and see. But you have been warned. So I think it's pretty common knowledge now that this movie started out its life as a pitch to Lucasfilm for a more grounded, mature take on Star Wars. This was back in the days before we had the sequel trilogy. Do you remember those days, guys? They were grand times, weren't they? Back when trilogies had a cohesive plan and everything was, you know, for the sake of the story and not to piss people off. But anyway, that's another video for another time, and believe me, I have a lot to say about that, so that will definitely be coming. But anyway, back to Rebel Moon. So the plot of this movie is essentially you have this galactic empire who rule the galaxy with an iron fist, and there is a farmer who clearly has a destiny to fulfill, and she bands this group of rebels together to... Actually, fuck, that's basically Star Wars, isn't it? Okay, moving on. Anyway, so she bands these group of rebels together, and they go to this like space bar, and they meet this roguish kind of outlaw who help. Fuck, this is literally Star Wars. This is this supposed to be a? This was an original idea. It was. Okay. Okay, all right, no, that's fine. No, okay, just checking. All right, moving on. So then you have these villains who are trying to stop this farmer, which is her name's Cora, not Cora. That because that's not actually really her name. Basically, it turns out she used to be bad, and now she's kind of turned good again. And she has this like the main villain of this saga is a kind of like her adopted father. So it's like a father figure, you know, if you will. Yeah, that also sounds really familiar. I can't think why though. But yeah, I mean, essentially the movie is just her banding these rebels together, like, you know, assembling this team to kind of fight the mother world, which is basically their empire. And yeah, I mean, this, you know, they have like this like skirmish kind of scuffle at the end, and Francis from Deadpool dies, except he doesn't die because it actually turns out he's like a cyborg. Honestly, I don't know where he gets these ideas from. Like, the originality is strong with this one. But yeah, I mean, and the movie just, you know, ends on a somewhat kind of foreshadowing note, obviously, for part 2. It's somewhat hopeful because, you know, you have like the rebels kind of go off, you know, they return back to their like the village where the movie started. So I mean, you could make an argument there that there is, you know, a somewhat kind of a standalone story that is told. You know, you get this kind of, you know, beginning, middle, and end, which I've seen some people criticize the movie for that. I guess, you know, you could obviously, as I said, you could argue that there is at least a kind of a cohesive, you know, story told in part 1. I mean, the thing is, I love Zack Snyder movies. I'm by no means a Zack Snyder fanboy. You know, I thought Army of the Dead was kind of overrated, to be honest. But everything else I've seen he's done, you know, I've absolutely loved it. You know, 300, loved that. Watchmen, loved it. Man of Steel, loved it. Batman v Superman, really loved that. Zack Snyder's Justice League, really loved that. And his Dawn of the Dead remake, I love that as well. So all the movies of his I've seen, for the most part, I've really enjoyed. And I love his kind of epicness that he brings to all of his, you know, projects. And he has this really great, obviously he's a, you know, total visionary filmmaker. And I love his, you know, he's always trying to just push the boundaries and make things as big as they can be. Sometimes that's great. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't quite work. And for me, Rebel Moon is an example of that, where it didn't quite work. I feel he's trying to do too much. Kind of, you know, he's blowing his load straight away, basically. And yeah, and I just think for part 1, I think if he'd have just toned it down a bit, you know, did a bit more character. Because the thing is, the characters in this movie, I think there's some interesting characters there, but they just just get no room to grow, and we don't get to spend much time with them at all. So it's difficult to feel any kind of a connection to them. Cora, not Cora, is, obviously the main character. We get lots of time with her, and I think Sofia Boutella was really great in this. It's nice to see, because she's always been like, I've always kind of seen her in things, and she's really cool. Like, she's kind of a memorable character, like from Kingsman, for example. And she can do all the physicality stuff, like awesome. Like all the action scenes in this are really good. They look really cool, and I thought she did a really good job as the lead. But there's just so many other characters in this movie. Charlie Hunnam is great for what he does in the movie. But again, he's kind of there. I've seen a lot of people going about Jimmy the robot, or the droid, voiced by Anthony Hopkins. I really don't know why. Like, people saying he was like a standout character. Literally, he's in the movie like 10 minutes, and then he literally just fucks off. And then he just pops up at the end. It's like, okay, right, that's good, is it? So yeah, maybe I've missed something there. So yeah, obviously let me know in the comments about that. But yeah, for the most part, this was fine. It's like, I don't know. It's a strange one. It's like, I'm excited to see what comes next. I am intrigued, and I will be watching part 2. But at the same time, I don't really care. It's like I haven't really formed an attachment to these characters, and it's like they're trying to just kind of project that this is like this epic, masterful film. But I just didn't really see it in this. Like, I get what they're going for, and my God, I haven't even mentioned yet, but just some of the locations in this movie, like, it's so just obviously like on a soundstage, like, it just looks so shit, basically. Like, the literally opening shot when you see not Cora for the first time, she's like in the crops, and it's like, it looks so bad, basically. It's just, I can't even put it into words. You just have to kind of watch it for yourself. It's just like, how did you think that was a finished shot? That just looks awful. And there's so much of that, and the slow motion in this, my God, like, I feel that you could have easily shaved a good half an hour off this film if you just took all the slow motion stuff out, because there is so much of it, and it just has no real purpose to the scenes and things. It's like, you'll have someone walking kind of, or running normal speed, then it will go to slow motion, and then back to normal speed again, with no actual kind of benefit or payoff to that scene. So yeah, kind of bizarre. I feel like this is Zack Snyder kind of with everything at full volume, like kind of maxed out 10 up to 11. But yeah, it's like he kind of just thought, I'm just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this. But as I say, I hope part 2 pays off. I think if part 2 is great, and I really hope it is, because I was genuinely really excited about this movie. When it was announced that he was doing this kind of sci-fi fantasy epic, I was like, I'm fucking all in for that. That sounds amazing. Something else that I really appreciated about this movie was how you have the villains are just very clearly just the villains of this movie. There's no I love a conflicted, complicated villain or hero as much as the next person. But it's quite refreshing actually just to see some characters that you're supposed to hate. It's like very clearly, no, these guys are bad, and then these guys are good, and you're supposed to root and cheer for these guys. So I quite like that. And yeah, my God, the villains in this movie, you cannot wait to see them die. So it's very satisfying when that happens. So overall, Rebel Moon is a kind of a mixed bag for me, really. I like the world building, although I didn't think it was done very well. I like the characters, although we just didn't get enough time with them. So I don't really care about them at this point. And then the overall story as well. Again, I know it's going to be fleshed out in part 2. But it just doesn't feel like a kind of a concluded chapter. I really hope part 2 is a lot better. And again, we're getting a fucking director's cut for this as well. Like, as I say, I love Zack Snyder, but mate, why do you need to keep making these director's cuts? Just put out the fucking movie that you want to do. Obviously, I know the whole Warner Brothers side of things with with his DC movie, so I understand there. But Watchmen's got about 100 different versions that you can watch. We got BVS the Ultimate Cut. Obviously, we got Zack Snyder's Justice League, which, you know, that needed to be made. That, you know, I'm totally supporting that one. But again, with this, it's like it's like it could be like a 3-hour version. Like, Netflix are on your side, it seems. You know, you've got a good partnership with them. Why not just put out the 3-hour cut now, and maybe people wouldn't be shitting all over this movie like they are at the moment. But I don't know. We'll see about that. Again, I don't know if I'll watch that, to be honest. I don't know if I want to sit through it again, but maybe I will, because it might make me appreciate this first part more. Who knows? So overall, I'm going to give Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, a rating of 2.5 Jimmies out of 5. Alright guys, thank you so much for checking this video out. I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe as well. Well, you know how YouTube works. Oh, and did I mention cyborgs in this film? Oh, never mind.